So if you have Ross chapter 8 open in front of you, we want to look at 8.1. This has to do with vowel reductions in Hebrew. Vowel reduction. As you may remember, I've told you that there are situations where a vowel can become a vocal shava. Okay? And that method that we've seen can be used to signal to the reader, don't reduce that vowel to a vocal shava. And it's in chapter 8 that we actually see what are some of the conditions that might lead a Hebrew speaker to reduce a vowel to a vocal shava. Now, this is Ross 8.1 in Ross chapter 8. Here's what I want you to do. Go to there's two paragraphs under 8.1, number 1 and number 2. And what I want you to do is to the left of number 1, I want you to write this down. Okay? Write down noun reduction pattern. Okay? And next to number 2, I want you to write down verb reduction pattern. And there's a reason for this, and I'm going to tell you why. All right. If you take a look at number 1, where I've asked you to write noun reduction pattern, Ross gives you a couple of words where we see vowels becoming vocal shava. Let's take the word navi. The word navi means prophet. Okay? Navi. The way it's written and spelled here, how many syllables do we have? 2. We have 2 syllables. If I were to divide this into syllables, where would I make my dividing line? After na. Na-vi. Right? Each of these has its own vowel now and a lead consonant in front of the vowel. See that? Now, that's one prophet. If I were to label these for open and closed, na would be open, vi, it would be closed, except this little aleph has quiesced here. So it would actually end up being open after it quiesces. Where's the tone? Last syllable. And this is, na is pretonic, right? Now, let's say I want to say prophets, plural. This is masculine singular, so what would I add to make navi plural? Im. Where does the kirit go? Under the aleph, then the yod, and then the mem. Now, let's divide the syllables now. The aleph is no longer quiescing because aleph only quiesces because it's a lousy closer. When it's trying to close a syllable, it gives up and says, you win. And it becomes nothing. But here, it's opening a syllable because it has a vowel under it, right? So if I were to divide the syllables now, the aleph has to take its own syllable. The im is stealing the aleph away. And now, where's the tone? The tone is over here. And this is no longer tonic, but pretonic and open. This is no longer pretonic, but propertonic. And this is the situation where Hebrew nouns and adjectives will reduce their vowel to a vocal shava. Okay? And so this is the principle. Syllables that become open and propertonic will reduce their vowel to a vocal shava if that vowel is changeable. Now remember, we have some vowels that are not changeable. Which ones are they? What's that? Well, there are A, I, and U vowels that are unchangeable. But I'm thinking in terms of our chart. The historically long vowels are the unchangeable ones, okay? Any vowel that's historically long, that is, it has a mater, is unchangeably long. And so you won't reduce that to a vocal shava. Kametz is not a changeable vowel, though, is it? It's not an unchangeable vowel. So it can reduce. So when I add the eem, guess what it's going to become? It's going to become a vocal shava. So it becomes n-v-eem. Now, once all that change happens, if I were asking you to divide the syllables now, would I put a dividing line next to that vocal shava? No. So that will end up having to go away, right? Because I can't really divide a word this way and leave a vocal shava hanging by itself. So when all is said and done, this ends up becoming n-v-eem. Okay? So that's what happens there. Let's real quickly take another word like davar. Davar is the word that means word. Remember that? Davar is word. If I want to say words, plural, what do? I add an eem. Where's my tone going to go? Last syllable. The va is open and pretonic. Can I leave the long a there? What's the old preacher sermons are long rule? Open pretonic syllables require a long vowel. I've already got a long vowel, so nothing changes. But now this is open and proprotonic once I add this new syllable with the eem. And what's that long a going to do? It will reduce to vocal shava. And so davar becomes devarim. Devarim. Okay? So we're going to see this kind of vowel reduction happen with nouns over and over and over again. Okay, so if you remember, I asked you to write down the words noun reduction pattern and verb reduction pattern next to numbers 1 and 2 on page 76 under 8.1. And we've already talked a little bit about the first one. What we're dealing with here are situations where vowels can reduce. That is, vowels can reduce to a vocal shava. The first sort of example under number 1 has to do with what nouns usually do, and that is that when a noun syllable becomes open and proprotonic, it is going to reduce to a vocal shava. All right? It'll reduce to a vocal shava. We talked about how davar and navi can become plural, and we get the vocal shavas there. Let's take the word levav. This is the Hebrew word for heart, levav. How many syllables do I have here? I have 2, and this one's open, this one's closed. Where's the tone? It's on the end. Now, this bet right here then is closing the syllable. But if I want to say hearts, plural, I'm going to add a plural ending. Now, what matters is whether this is masculine or feminine. This is actually a feminine noun, so what am I going to add, eem or oat to this? I'm going to add oat. So I'm going to put the oat ending here. Now, this is a vowel. It's a vocalic ending. Vocalic endings are endings that start with vowels. Okay? Vocalic endings, these start with vowels. So oat starts with a vowel. That means that it needs a lead consonant. So the bet was closing. Now it's going to slide over and follow this vowel and open a new syllable. Where's the stress or the tone going to go? It's going to go to the final syllable. So it's going to go to vote. So that means the bait here has an open pretonic syllable, now that I've added this extra syllable. And this is now open and proprotonic. So what are our noun rules? Open pretonic syllables require what? Remember our little mnemonic device, OPSRL? Old preacher sermons are long. Open pretonic syllables require a long vowel. Is kametz long? Yes. So I don't need to change anything. But now I have a syllable that used to be open and pretonic. Now it's open and proprotonic. This first rule is telling me that it wants to do what? It wants to reduce to a vocal shava. So the sere will now become a vocal shava here. Okay? Now this will only happen if the vowel that I'd like to reduce in an open proprotonic syllable is changeable. Which vowels are changeable? Or which ones are unchangeable? Maybe that's the better way to put it. The vowels that are unchangeable are the historically long vowels, the ones with the mater. Okay, you cannot change those, you cannot reduce them. Anything else is changeable, but the historically long ones are not. So the sere that was under the lamed here for levav is changeable because it's not historically long. So it can go to vocal shiva. Okay? Let's take the word, actually, we'll wait on eretz because that's, we're going to talk about those in just a little while. The second item that he tells you is that sometimes you can have words where the open pretonic syllable becomes a vocal shiva. The open pretonic syllable can reduce. Okay? Now, what's an example that he gives? He gives you the word shofet. Shofet is the word for judge. Shofet. Say that with me. Shofet. And I want to turn this into the plural form. This is a masculine singular noun, shofet, judge. So what am I going to add to the tate here to make it plural? Im or oath if it's masculine? Im. Very good. So I'm going to put the im here. Now, the tate will no longer close the syllable. It's going to slide over and go with this Keurig yod because that's a vowel. Where's my tone? It's going to be on the final syllable. Shofetim. The pei is going to be open and pretonic, right? This is a situation where the open pretonic syllable now will want to reduce to vocal shiva. And I've got a sere here, which is a changeable vowel. So what will that become? It'll become vocal shiva. So I get shofetim instead of shofetim. Okay, and that's the way we say judges in the plural. So everybody say that with me. Shofet, one judge. Shofetim is plural judges, and reduction to vocal shiva happened in the open pretonic syllable here. All right. Now, I just want to mention one thing about the way Ross lays this out. If I were writing this chapter, I would not have even had this number 2 example here. And the reason I have told you to write the word verb reduction pattern here is because this pattern is really not typical for nouns. Now, we're dealing with nouns in this chapter, okay? The word judge, he's treating like it's just a regular noun, but the fact of the matter is it's a verbal form known as a participle that's functioning as a noun. That is to say, the word for judge in Hebrew, shofet, it literally means judging one, or a judger. Okay? This is really a verbal form. And when verbs have syllables that become open and pretonic, verbs like to reduce those to vocal shiva. And this is, you might be sitting there going, okay, well, which is it? Am I going to get reduction to vocal shiva in open proprotonic syllables or in open pretonic syllables? The answer is, if you're dealing with nouns, you're going to be looking for open proprotonic reduction to vocal shiva. When you start looking at verbs, verbs are going to be the ones that do the second thing. Okay? So I think it's a little bit tricky and difficult for him to throw that in there for you, but he did anyway. So I just wanted to maybe make that a little clearer. Now, let's talk about 8.2 in the Ross textbook. He introduces us to a kind of noun called the Segholate noun. What vowel do you think of when you hear the word Segholate? Seghol, that's right. And the Seghol is that vowel that looks like the 3 dots, okay? Segholate nouns are a special kind of noun that are characterized by 2 things. Number 1, in the singular, Segholate nouns are always going to have first syllable stress. They're always going to have stress on the first of the 2 syllables. That is a non-negotiable. Always, always, always. Segholate nouns will have first syllable stress. Compare that to the noun word. What's that? What's the Hebrew word for word? Davar. Where's the accent on davar? Final syllable, right? That's right. So most of my nouns will be final syllable stress because that's where things usually are stressed. So Segholates are special. They get first syllable stress. They are so characterized by first syllable stress in the singular, you shouldn't see one without that accent mark. Now, the second characteristic of segholate nouns is that they usually have a double segol pattern. Segol's under root 1 and root 2 of the 3 root letters of the noun. So notice, eretz is our word for earth. Do you see the double segol pattern? Okay. And you see the first syllable stress. It's not eretz, but eretz. Eretz. How did we say the word king? Yeah, melech. Melech. Double segol and first syllable stress. So the double segol is frequent. It is not an always, though, kind of requirement. That is to say, you will see some segholate nouns that might have just one segol and another vowel, or it might not have any segols, but it will have first syllable stress. Now, one of the nouns that you've learned is na'ar, right? Isn't that one of the nouns you've had? Na'ar is a youth, a lad, a boy. Notice that this has first syllable stress here, but not the double segol. Why not? The answer lies in that letter right there. What is that letter called? Ayin. And what gang does it belong to? It belongs to the guts gang. And what did we learn about gutturals? There were 3 characteristics we learned about gutturals. They are, they don't take no dagesh forte from anyone. What about vocal shava? Okay, do they love vocal shavas or hate vocal shavas? They hate them. That's right. They shoot vocal shavas wherever they can. Okay? That is, they don't take vocal shavas under them. Gutturals will take what instead? Compound shavas, right? Gutturals take compound shavas where they needed a vocal shava. And then thirdly, gutturals prefer A-class vowels, and Aleph likes segol if Aleph can get a segol. And I've written those characteristics down here. Remember those? So these are your guts. Ayin, Hey, Chet, Aleph. Resh is the guts wannabe. No dagesh forte. No vocal shava, compound shava instead. And then they prefer A-class vowels. All of the gutturals follow number 1, including Resh. 2 and 3, it's only the 4 true gutturals, okay? So look at na'ar. Na'ar really should have been ne'er, because it is a segholate noun, and segholate nouns like double segol. But since ayin is a guttural, what does it prefer instead of the segols? It prefers A-class vowels. So notice that right before the ayin and right after the ayin, these vowels are going to be affected. Where's that ayin pronounced? Way in the back of the throat where the A sound happens. Okay? So this guttural in root 2 position will force A-class vowels both before and after the guttural. So that's why this is not ne'er but na'ar. Na'ar. Okay? So just so that you get a sense for why this is happening. Now, if you look at your list on page 77, you have a number of segholate nouns. So let's just read those together. Repeat after me. We'll start with the left column, and we'll read down. Eretz, derech, kesef. These are all words you know. Land, way or path, and silver or money. Next, kerem, melech. So all of these have stress on which syllable? And which vowels? Yeah, double segol. Good. But look at na'ar. There we've got the guttural. That creates that double pathak pattern. And then on the right, we have sefer. So here I have one segol and one sere, but true to form, it does have the first syllable stress. Sefer is scroll or book. Eved, servant. And kodesh is holiness. Notice I have a holem segol. Okay? So these are all segholate nouns. Now, why does Ross introduce us to segholate nouns in this chapter? What he wants us to do is we're learning how to make nouns plural, and we're following the patterns of how vowels can reduce. So if I take a word like melech over here, and I want to make it plural, what do? Well, you might think that I just take the word melech with its first syllable stress, and add im to the end like this. Melek im. Now notice my final cough has to change to the non-final cough. And then I can add the im to it. Okay? But this is actually not what happens with Segholate nouns. What happens? Melek in the plural becomes melachim. Where's my stress on melachim? It's at the end. So here's the deal with Segholate nouns. In the singular, they are committed to first syllable stress. But when they become plural, they give up the ghost on that. And the stress goes to the final syllable. When that does, I cannot keep the accent mark here. And the vowels are going to change, and it's going to follow the pattern of davar. What did davar do? Davar, to make it plural, became devarim. I got vocal shava under root 1, kametz under root 2. Davar became devarim, so melek becomes melakim. Same pattern, im. Okay? Segholates follow the pattern of davar. So let's look at a couple of examples. Let's take the word na'ar. That was boy. I want to make it plural. What gender is na'ar? It's masculine. So what am I going to add to the resh to make it masculine plural? Got to add im. Can I keep the stress on the first syllable once I add this vocalic im ending? No, it's going to surrender its stress to the back. So I'm going to put that in parentheses. And then what would be the vowel pointing under those two first consonants? If it follows the pattern of davar, it will be first vocal shava followed by kametz. So the plural of na'ar is not na'arim, but na'arim. Vocal shava kametz. Like devarim. Na'arim. Okay? Let's take a look at eretz for a moment. That was land. If I want to say lands, plural, I got to add an ending. What gender is eretz? I've told you here, it doesn't look feminine, but it actually is. So I need to add what ending to make it plural? I'm going to add ot. What about that sadi? Can I leave that sadi the final sadi if it's not in the final position? Nope. So we're going to change that to the non-final sadi. And that's going to look like this. And then can I leave my stress on the first syllable when it's plural? Nope. So the stress will go away. And these double segos will go away. And what's going to go under the aleph? A vocal shava, the resh, a kametz, like we had here. Hey, can I put a vocal shava under a guttural like aleph? Oh no, I can't do that, can I? So guess what I'm going to do? What sort of vowel pointing do gutturals prefer? They prefer A-class vowels, don't they? And so I'm going to get the A-class compound shava here under the aleph instead of a vocal shava. So it'll be aratzot, like that. Okay, so that'll be the plural for lands, aratzot. Okay, so you see how that works? So that's Segholate nouns. So you want to be careful to make sure we're aware of what happens there.